Hi, my name is Olivia and welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be my July 2019 TBR. This is going to be a fairly ambitious reading month for me with a total of 9 books on my TBR, but I'm hoping to use reading as an opportunity to relax and unwind in between filling out graduate school applications. The first book that I'm hoping to pick up this month is Throne of Glass by Sarah J. Maas. In case you're not familiar with this one, it follows the story of an 18-year-old female assassin named Selena, who's freed from imprisonment by the crown. In exchange for her release, however, she's required to compete in a tournament that will select the next royal assassin for the king. If she succeeds in winning the competition, she'll be freed from her responsibilities as the royal assassin after 4 years of service to the throne. Now, I'm the first person to admit that I was very late to jump on the Sarah J. Maas bandwagon. When she first rose to fame, I remembered reading some reviews, watching some videos, and looking into some of her books, but I couldn't really identify what set her works apart from the rest of the YA books that were being published at the time. I finally succumbed to the hype surrounding some of her books, and I picked up the Court of Thorns and Roses trilogy about 2 years ago now. Going into that series, I was concerned that the books wouldn't live up to their reputation, or live up to my somewhat overinflated expectations at the time. Consequently, I was shocked when the first book immediately drew me in, and I was mesmerized the entire time. I managed to read A Court of Thorns and Roses in, I believe, 2 sittings, and I wrapped up the entire trilogy within 2 weeks. While I recognize that Maas isn't going to be the next Dickens or Austen, I appreciated her writing style, her character development, and a few of the twists and turns that she threw in along the way. These factors certainly contributed to me flying through the trilogy in such a short span of time, and I'm not sure that I would have enjoyed the books as much if these things had been absent or done to a lesser extent. Despite picking up on these positives throughout the trilogy, I did notice a few flaws along the way. The primary things that stood out to me were some plot holes and inconsistencies that were just glossed over and never really addressed. Even though these stood out to me, it didn't ruin my overall reading experience, and I was still able to derive some enjoyment from the series. With that being said, I'm not sure how the Throne of Glass series is going to compare to the Court of Thorns and Roses trilogy, but I'm willing to give it an opportunity to stun me once again. I've heard very dissenting opinions about these 2 series. Other readers tend to feel very strongly about these books, and these polarizing opinions seem to make them either love or hate Maas's writing style. From what I've heard, it also seems like people tend to favor one series considerably over the other one, so let me know down in the comments if you have a preference for one or the other. Due to all of the mixed emotions, opinions, and reactions that I've heard about both of these series, I am apprehensive yet hopeful as I pick up the Throne of Glass series this month. The next book that I'm hoping to tackle in July is Scythe by Neal Shusterman. This book is set in a dystopian universe in which many of the negative aspects of society, like famine, warfare, and disease, have been eliminated altogether. Without these measures for controlling population size and population growth, scythes have been appointed to end the lives of individuals within this society. The plot of this novel focuses on 2 main characters, who are both apprentices training to become scythes, and the story unfolds from there. When dystopian young adult books initially became popular 6 or 7 years ago, I spent several years reading only books that fell into that genre. Looking back, I realized that this significantly limited what I was being exposed to, and I wish I had branched out a little bit more during this period. After several years of reading just dystopian after dystopian after dystopian, I gradually became disillusioned with the genre as a whole. The universes in which these books were set were all starting to blend together, and there was frustratingly large overlap between the plots and even a lot of the characters from one book to the next. I grew tired of being constantly beat over the head by the same regurgitated storylines, weak attempts at character romances, and considerably overdone tropes. As a result, I used this as an opportunity to step away from the genre for the past several years, and instead I've been focusing most of my attention on adult books, particularly fantasies and psychological thrillers. While this break from dystopian young adult books was both much needed and refreshing, I think it's time that I start returning to the genre every now and again, and I'm hoping that Scythe will give me the perfect opportunity to do so. One of the reasons that I selected Scythe in particular was all of the rave reviews that I've been hearing about Neal Shusterman's writing for several years now. This is the first book of his that I'll be reading, so it's yet another one of those long overdue reads. I'm curious to see what all of the excitement is about surrounding his books, and I'm looking forward to immersing myself in his world building, his characters, and his writing style. If I'm going to start dabbling in the dystopian genre again, I want to make sure that I'm devoting time and energy only to the books that I think I'll genuinely enjoy, and Scythe is looking very promising so far. Next up is Beneath the Sugar Sky by Seanan McGuire. This is the third book in the Wayward Children series, but all of these installments are companion novels, so they can pretty loosely be read in any order that you wish. Each book within the series centers upon a slightly different cast of characters, but usually there is a bit of overlap and some friendly faces from book to book. McGuire really utilizes these installments as a unique platform to delve into the characters' backstories and upbringings. Many of these additional insights would be overwhelming if they were all amassed into one book, so I'm glad that it was divided up into several smaller installments. To date, I've only read the first 2 books in the series. The first of these, Every Hearted Doorway, focuses on the inhabitants of Miss Eleanor West's home for wayward children. Each of the children that Miss West has taken in have returned to the real world from an array of fantastical adventures in worlds that differ considerably from our own. Every individual traveled to a unique world that was suited to their respective personalities and aspirations, and they all had vastly different experiences while there. The first installment serves as a very abbreviated, surface level, and generalized introduction to the system of interconnected worlds and to all of the children that you meet in greater depth in many of the later books. I picked up Every Hearted Doorway a few years ago, closer to when it was initially published, but after finishing it, I set aside the rest of the series for a later date. While I enjoyed McGuire's very lyrical writing style, vivid imagination when it came to characters and world building, and unique plot, I found this first book a little too short for my liking. I wasn't satisfied with the pacing, which constantly seemed hurried and rushed in an attempt to simply get to the next plot point, never stopping to consider some of the scenery or some of the character reactions to what was unfolding. This likely could have been rectified if the book had been extended to 200 or even 300 pages, and I think I would have enjoyed that more. I read the second book in the series, Down Among the Sticks and Bones, just this past June, and I had very similar thoughts. And that brings me to the third book in the series. I started this one today, and I'm hoping to finish it up within the next day or 2, but I think it's a bit too early on for me to decide if it's falling into the same trap as the first 2 installments. The first adult thriller that I'm planning to read in the month of July is Shutter Island by Dennis Lehane. The remote island for which the book is named houses Ashcliffe Hospital for the Criminally Insane. Rumors of inhumane treatment of the patients and the performance of relatively untested medical procedures have circulated, reaching the mainland. But from an outside perspective, it's unclear whether any of these rumors actually hold some truth. The book follows 2 U.S. Marshals, Teddy and Chuck, who have recently been paired up as partners, as they're sent to the island to investigate the escape of a convicted murderess. During their visit, a hurricane blockades them on the island, leaving them stranded there as they attempt to find the escaped patient and uncover the root of the mysterious happenings at Ashcliffe Hospital. I have seen the movie adaptation for this one, and assuming that it fairly closely follows the book, it has ruined the final plot twist for me. It's been quite a few years since the last time that I've seen it though, so I know that quite a few of the details are fading, and maybe even some of the major plot points are a bit fuzzy. I did really enjoy the film though, which was one of the driving factors that prompted me to pick up the book. After I finish reading, I'm planning to rewatch the movie because I'm very curious to see what they've adapted and changed in the film versus the book. I want to use it as an opportunity to refresh my memory on the movie and see how the 2 compare overall. Next is Wolf Hunter River by Rachel Kane. This is the 3rd and final installment in the Stillhouse Lake trilogy. To avoid spoilers for the earlier books in the series, I'll just stick to a brief synopsis about Stillhouse Lake, the first book. It follows the story of Gina Royal, who's shocked when she returns home and finds her property crawling with police officers. A drunken driver had crashed into her garage while she was out running errands and revealed her serial killer husband's lair, where he liked to torture and kill his victims. She's caught completely off guard by this, and after it's determined that she played no part in the murders, she and her children quickly moved from place to place, constantly changing their identities. Despite taking a variety of measures to protect themselves, the public continues to find out where they've relocated and the new identities that they've assumed. The media and much of the public have pegged Gina as guilty, even though there's no evidence to prove that she had any involvement. The first book opens as she and her children settle down in Stillhouse Lake, hoping to establish some roots and develop a few friendships. But things don't go exactly according to plan. Wolf Hunter River was just recently published back in April, and I just got my hands on it in time for my June haul. I'm very curious to see how the trilogy is going to be wrapped up and how all of the loose ends are going to be addressed. I had a great time reading the first two books, and I really enjoyed the series format. There were quite a few twists and turns, and I never knew quite what to expect, so I'm hoping I'll find the same with this last installment. They were constantly filled with twists and turns, which I did not see coming most of the time, and I'm hoping I can say the same about this third and final installment. The first ebook that I'm hoping to tackle this month is It by Stephen King. The book is set in the town of Derry, which is haunted by Pennywise the Clown, who returns to the area every 27 years and is somehow involved in the mysterious disappearance of local children. It follows a group of these children who are growing up in Derry and are witnessing a lot of these strange, mysterious events that are unfolding due to Pennywise's appearance. The narration also fast forwards to 27 years in the future when all of these children have grown up and return to Derry, recollecting on a lot of their experiences as children. I'm guessing that quite a few of you are already familiar with this one, probably partially due to the remake of the film that was released within the past year. I watched the film in theaters when it first came out, and while I haven't seen the original for comparison, it was one of my favorite horror films that I watched in 2018. With the exception of a final few scenes at the end of the movie, I thought it was very well done. All of the actors and actresses, especially the children, were incredibly talented, and that's what helped to immerse me in the film, making me feel as if I was actually there, experiencing all of these events firsthand. With the release of It Chapter 2 later this year, I knew that I wanted to tackle the book before I got around watching the second installment. I also haven't picked up any horror books within the past several months, which is fairly rare for me, so I'm excited to get back into the genre and back into Stephen King's books. The next two books that I want to read in July are A Game of Thrones and A Clash of Kings by George R.R. Martin. With the booming popularity of the HBO TV series based upon these books, I'm sure that these need no introduction, so I'll skip an overall plot summary. I've been a huge fan of the TV show for years, although I wasn't too happy with how it ended. I know that the show differs quite a bit from Martin's books, especially in later seasons, so I'm hoping that the ending Martin writes will be more redeeming than the ending in the show. The TV show did prompt my interest in the books, and I've actually tried to start this first book several times before, but I've always managed to DNF it around 25 or 30% of the way through it. Both of the times that I've DNF'd it in the past, I had a lot of other things going on, and I was juggling multiple books at a time, so I'm hoping that those were the main contributing factors that led to that decision. I'm really looking forward to jumping back into this world and the cast of characters. I think Martin is a genius in all that he was able to create around this series, and I'm hoping I can get the same sense of enjoyment from the books that I got from the TV show. The final book that I'm hoping to read in July is another ebook, and it's The Cuckoos Calling by Robert Galbraith, which is also a pseudonym for J.K. Rowling. It centers on an ex-military private detective as he investigates the suicide of a supermodel. I didn't want to read much more about it above and beyond that because I don't want to reveal any of the key points to the mystery. I haven't touched any of J.K. Rowling's works since the disgrace that was Harry Potter and the Cursed Child, even though I know her contribution to the screenplay was a little bit controversial. The Cursed Child left a pretty bad taste in my mouth. It was not the ending to the Harry Potter series that I was looking for, and I've decided I'm just going to ignore the fact that the screenplay even exists. My poor experience and impressions of Harry Potter and the Cursed Child were enough to dissuade me from picking up any J.K. Rowling books for several years thereafter. Now that I'm a few years removed from that not-so-pleasant experience, I'm interested to see how J.K. Rowling has adapted her writing style and grown as an author. And I'm intrigued to see how she's going to represent mystery novels. While mysteries don't compose the vast majority of books that I read on a regular basis, I'm trying to branch out, and I wanted to give Rowling another opportunity to redeem herself. I'll be honest, I'm very nervous for this one. I don't want it to impact my thoughts on the Harry Potter series, which was instrumental when I was growing up, and was one of the series that first got me interested in reading. But at the same time, I still want to look at it critically, and from the mindset of someone who enjoys reviewing these kinds of books. With that being said, this wraps up my July 2019 TBR. Let me know down in the comments what books you're hoping to tackle this month, and I'll see you in my next video.